Oh, great.
Yes.
Thank you. So, hello everyone and welcome to this webinar about how to use Jira as an HR platform. In this webinar, I will introduce the basic concept of how to implement various HR processes into Jira. We will also tell you about these basic concepts, the use cases, and then show them in Jira. This way, you'll know how to implement it for yourself. And one of the biggest upsides of implementing the HR processes in Jira is that you can actually implement them into your existing Jira instance. You wouldn't need much of like in way of new tools or anything like that. So because they utilize the same basic principles as any other project in Jira. So we'll be just recycling some existing add-ons, some existing settings, and so on. And we'll take a look how. A very small introduction. My name is Kamil Ber, and I'm an Atlassian freelancer. I've been working with the Atlassian toolset from 2014. I was implementing it for all kinds of customers, to small startups, to enterprise companies. I also use Jira personally for a personal project, a board game, and I'm currently working for Iralco as an article writer and a webinar person, so to say. Along with me here is Damien Lauberton, which is also a very seasoned Atlassian veteran from Idelco. So, Damien, could you introduce yourself in a few words, please?
Yes, sure. So yes, I'm Damien. I'm working for Hidalgo France especially. I'm the sales manager for France, and I'm also a certified Atlassian consultant. I have 11 years of IT behind me. I started as a developer, as a Scrum Master, product owner, and now Atlassian certified consultant. And I'm working with Jira and Confluence since almost 10 years also now. So I love Atlassian products.
Yeah, that makes two of us. All right, welcome everyone. And a few organizational things. This webinar will be about 2 hours long with a pause in between. It really matters on the amount of questions and how fast can we get through the topic. Now, I'm sure that as we introduce many of the concepts that you will have these questions and comments. So if you could, please write them in the chat or, well, the chat is probably the best and we will reply to them for you as best as possible. I'll be presenting and Damien will try to answer the questions that may come up. Now, this is by no means like a one-way lecture. It should be more of a workshop with your input. So let's dive right in. All right. Now, these are the topics that we will cover in today's webinar. We will first define which processes or functions of human resources will we implement in Jira and which tools and methods to use to do so. And of course, we will explore how it all works in a demonstration environment in Jira. But before we begin, I would like to ask you, have you ever used Jira as a tool for human resources? Or perhaps you're already using it. Or maybe some of you might be thinking about starting using it. So how is your experience with Jira as an HR tool?
Well, the first experience that I had professionally was to build a workflow for HR to be able to follow the recruitment, the process of recruiting people for a company.
All right. Anyone else? Have you already used Jira for HR processes, or perhaps you are considering
No,
creating use case?
hello.
Hello.
I use Jira, but not for HR. I'm using Jira for tracking bugs, and I'm using the X-ray plugin for testing.
All right. Yeah, X-ray is great.
Yes.
So it seems that for the rest, HR in Jira is somewhat of a new use case or a new experience. So let's start with the absolute basics. So this webinar is called Jira Core as an HR platform, right? So you probably all know that there are three types of Jiras. Software and Service Desk are among the most popular. Now, before October 2015, when these three came out, there was only one Jira, and users installed various add-ons on top of it. And two of these add-ons were very popular, so Atlassian decided to integrate them with Jira and create two instances. Jira combined with Jira Agile, formerly Greenhopper, a tool for agile development, became Jira Software. Another combination of Jira and Jira Service Desk resulted in a dedicated application named after the add-on, Jira Service Desk. And then there was Jira Core, which was Jira as it was before October 2015. However, it didn't have any extra add-on features that were, of course, delivered as a part of Jira Software and Jira Service Desk. Now, Jira Core might not have any extra features, but we'll explore how could it be used in a minute. So, yeah, here's a few facts about Jira Core, and it's not very impressive. Now, before Jira Software and Jira Service Desk came out, you had to have a basic Jira like this, because without it, you couldn't work at all. But nowadays, Jira Core doesn't even appear on Google that much. Jira Software is much more promoted. When you Google Jira, the first thing you see will be Jira Software. And actually, one of the free redeeming qualities about Jira Core is the pricing, which compared to Jira Service Desk and Jira Software is actually pretty good. There certainly is a difference. I picked a very basic license for 25 users for a server on-premise solution, but the price is different in cloud also. So here's a point about Jira Core. It's for all the functions it has, it's fairly cheap or cheaper than Jira Software for 25 users. Atlassian says that Jira Core also has plenty of use cases, but more often than not, Jira Software is used in these cases instead, because again, Jira Software is very much promoted and much more popular. In case of legal and IT, again, Jira Service Desk comes to mind as a much better contender because other users can enter tickets and they can go through various approvals and so on. So even though Atlassian says that these use cases are good for Jira Core, again, you can do as good, if not even better, in Jira Software. So what's the point of having Jira Core? Well, from all of these use cases, Jira Core can be used quite well for HR. For example, it doesn't really need any service desk portals or Jira software boards to work well. And that's actually what we will explore next. Now, I said that Jira Core is different from Jira Software and Service Desk, right? Well, it's actually a part of it. So if you have Jira Software, you automatically get access to Jira Core. Or if you have Jira Service Desk, you get access to Jira Core. So what we will explore next can be actually implemented on any type of Jira you have. So even if you have Jira Software, well, great. Let's try it over there. I mentioned Jira Core in the title of the webinar, and I'm mentioning it now because it can work just fine even if you have only Jira Core and you try to use it for the HR use case. And it's actually the cheapest option should you want to try and implement it. Well, implementing HR processes in Jira might sound as a very broad topic because there's a variety of processes between or behind HR. So to set the right expectations, here's a few features we will be showing today and how to implement them in Jira. You can implement these HR use cases by utilizing apps that you already have. and that you use for other processes such Jira Misc workflow extensions or script runner. These are a few examples of apps that you might already have installed on your instance. They're very popular, and they will help with running the HR use cases a lot. Now, I will introduce them as we progress with the webinar, and using them usually benefits not only HR, but even other teams. So for those that would like to see more complex implementation of HR processes, I have included an outlier, that being tempo budgets, for which you will need to have like a very specific use case besides HR, but they're very practical to use in our case nevertheless. Now, I wanted to ask if any of you already have been using these add-ons, or if you're running any of these add-ons. Now, I know that Confluence isn't an add-on, but I included it in this use case as well. So what experience do you have with any of these add-ons? Does any of you perhaps use tempo budgets or even rich filters? You can unmute yourself, and yeah, we'd like to hear which ones you're using.
I use Confluence for like documentations.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I don't know about the other add-ons.
Mm-hmm. That's perfectly fine, because we will introduce them and what they do, and how will they benefit this use case, and maybe some of the other ones that you might have.
My favorite one is definitely, well, there is a lot of very good add-on here, but one of my favorite really is rich filters.
Yeah, rich filters is like a hidden gem.
Yeah.
I seriously hope that they will implement it on cloud.
Yeah, but for server or data center, it's really an amazing add-on.
Yep, that's right. Anybody use tempo budgets, for example? It's also not a very popular add-on, but it brings a huge use case inside Jira.
Well, we use it at Hidalgo to follow our time, and also I think they use it also to follow customer account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. It's a very nice tool to calculate like costs and revenues, and how did your projects go financially. But we'll introduce everything as we go through the webinar. All right. So the first use case we will show you is how can you track candidates and roles in Jira Core, or in Jira for that matter. So we'll start with a separate Jira project for roles and candidates and contractors. Those will be our issue types. We're creating a separate projects so we can implement separate permissions or even issue security schemes, because again, we will be working with a lot of sensitive data over there. We might get some CVs, for example. We might get some GDPR or privacy shield relevant data. So we need to isolate it from the rest of the ecosystem so that the regular users can't access it. We're also creating a new project because it will have its own issue types and its own workflows. And of course, you can search for it better if you create like a dedicated project. Here's a very basic role request workflow. Now, when talking about role requests, what I actually mean is that a line manager or some business partner, HR business partner, might come up with an idea that we need, let's say, 3 agile testers or 2 Jira administrators. And this request really needs to be approved first, right? So the first thing we will do is to create a role request that we need, let's say, 3 agile testers. This request will include all kinds of fields like, let's say, relevant experience, technologies, location, where do we want him, or his mandate date, or perhaps a salary that we can offer him. things like that. So for the role request to actually go through and be approved by everyone, I've included two approval statuses by a line manager of this of this future employee and the let's say finance department. We can add all kinds of other approvals, such as let's say HR business partner approval and superior approval, and well, all kinds of levels. So here's how a very basic workflow for a role request may look, and we can cancel it at any time. Maybe the role isn't relevant anymore, so I've included a status canceled to which we can go at any time. This role request will have subtasks under it, and these subtasks will be an employee or a contractor, because you might need different types of roles for different use cases. You might have a, let's say, a time, like a temporary project for which you need a contractor, right? Or you might have a open position for which you might need a permanent employee. So this is, again, a very basic workflow of how could this process of you know, interviewing and haggling, or perhaps even hiring, or just working around the onboarding of the employee might go. Because we first need to have some interviews with the employee. We will then offer him some sum which he can accept. If he doesn't and makes let's say a competing offer, or say a different mandate rate or a different salary, we can then discuss it internally and offer him a final offer. He can then either accept the offer, or we can cancel the hiring if he refuses. And if all goes well, we will then hire the employee. So let's take a look. How could this project look in Jira? I'll share my screen in a minute. All right, so I'm in a demonstration version of Jira Core implementation of these HR use cases. So I've created a project called recruitment, where I would like to have all of these HR related data and issues. In it, I have created several issue types. The important ones for us are the well, role request, contractor, and an employee. And one of the important parts of this setting, or about the setting of this project, is the permission scheme, because we don't want everyone to go there. We would just need a few of the manager roles and perhaps the admins. So let's check the permission schemes. So if this is like one of the most important settings when setting up the HR projects, right? Because there's a lot of private or GDPR protected data. So we need to set the permissions right. The instance is a little bit slower, so we'll just wait a second. So we have a few issue types, like I said, a role request, the employee, and the contractor. So the important setting here is the browse project setting, because as you definitely know, the browse project setting tells us who can see the issues in the project or even the project itself. So it's restricted to the project roles of the approvers, like the HR person, the line manager, and the finance manager. The Jira admins will also have access to the project because they set everything up. And there's reporter. So what exactly does reporter mean? Well, that means that even if you do see the project as a, let's say, a regular Jira users, you will see only your issues. And we will get to why that might be useful to us later. So first, we restricted the project. After that, we've created several issue types: the role, the contractor, and the employee. These are subtasks of the role. There's 2 more, review and team member, and we will get to them again a bit later. What can we find in each of these issues? So I have created a few simple issues of roles and employees, just to give you an idea of what we will actually be tracking. So I created a role request for one Jira admin. We see the custom field Jira administrator, so that we know the correct role. There are several others. I have added the expected monthly salary. Now that's just like a number. I didn't know whether that would be like dollars or euros, so that doesn't really matter in this case. How many hires, as in how much admins do we need? And which skill set should they have? Again, this is a multi-select field, works similar to components or labels, except for the nice view that the labels and components have. But you can select multiple technologies you need from your new employee. And then there's the office location, as in where he will work. Those are just a few examples of the fields that you might use in your role request. You might have some of, well, you might have a whole different use case. You might need to record like a cost center, or let's say the managers themselves, or perhaps maybe a phone number to the HR person who's taking care of this. I've also included the field line manager and finance manager. Those are user picker custom fields. And you can find a person from the group, from the line manager group, who will be the future line manager of the new employee. Now, why this is useful, we will go through it in a few minutes, but it's basically for approval purposes. So here's just a few fields you might want to add in your role request. As far as the employees or contractors go, I've included one contractor here, Tomáš Vrabec. And again, the fields are very similar. It's the name, mandate rate, because we have a contractor, not an employee. We have the skill set that he has. We have the office location where he will be working. And again, we can add a few more fields if we find that relevant. For example, there's the attachment field. We might add his CV on the issue. There's a special use case for this custom fields, line manager and finance manager. Regular user picker fields would let us pick just about anyone. So we need to restrict them to the group of the line managers, right? So let's check out how we can do so. As an admin, I would configure the field itself. This might be a little bit more technical, but I'm mentioning it for all of the admins that are here with us. How can you actually restrict a custom field just for the users from a specific group? Custom fields and line manager configure. And there's a special property of user picker fields when I can choose just one group of people that will the users will be able to pick the person from. So when I enter data into the line managers field, I will only see the line managers group as the users that I can enter in the field. So that's just a small interesting thing. Moving on. Moving on, back to the presentation. All right. So I've already mentioned add-ons for this use case. And the first one we could use is either Jira Mist workflow extensions, or automation for Jira, or script runner. So what's the idea here? Instead of sending all kinds of notifications to the necessary stakeholders, to the line managers and to the finance managers, we can either leave them out of this process because they might get spammed by all the things that might happen in the role request, but we can create a custom email whenever we need their approval. This helps with notifying the necessary people without Jira, spamming them with each of the operations that happens on the issue. This way, they will only get notified when a new role is created and it needs their approval to proceed. So let's check out how to do so. Right. So I will be working with the approval workflow for a role request. So let's dive right into the workflow, which is the role workflow. And I have chosen to use Jira Mist workflow extensions post function that when an issue changes status from, let's say, to do to line manager approval, an email message will be sent. You can configure just about the same if you're using script runner or automation for Jira. So here I have a transition. I will choose a post function. And actually, if you're using automation for Jira, these types of automations will be much easier to configure because you won't need to work with, let's say, Groovy scripts in script runner. I have chosen the, let's say, the medium difficulty approach, and that is using Jira Mist workflow extensions. It requires tweaking a little bit with the workflows, but it works just fine. So here's our post function from JMWE. It's an email issue post function, and it's bound to this transition to line manager approval, right? So if the issue changes status to line manager approval, the line manager will be notified. We need the notification to look, let's say, easy or very simply. So I have created this as the subject. So this is what will come in the email as the subject of the notification, right? So line manager approval for, let's say, for one Jira administrator, rec 5. That's the issue key. So this way, the manager knows the issue that needs his attention. And here's the body of the notification, which will look like this. I have mapped the summary of the issue. This is a very small Groovy script snippet. So we're looking for one Jira administrator because that's the summary of the issue. See the role requirements in this issue, rec 5. Thanks, reporter of the issue, as in thanks the person who requested this role. So this way, the notifications will be, well, much less time consuming and much less spammy if the line manager or the finance manager or whatever manager receives only the relevant notification or the relevant email message. Another bonus feature is automatic summary. So you would like the issues for the role request and for the candidates to look somewhat neat, right? To be descriptive, simple, and to the point. If you're using Script Runner, you can leverage the behaviors plugin or the behaviors part of Script Runner. What behaviors actually do is they can, for example, make fields non-editable, or they make automatic fields, or they automate all kinds of processes on the background of the issue. So I have picked a feature which will automatically fill the summary of the issue with some of the data that we entered into the issue. So we don't have to write, let's say, the name twice or the salary twice, something like that. It also saves time because, again, it's automatic. And if you set the fields to be not edited, as in you set summary to read only, then it's also there's not much room for, let's say, user error. So let's check it out. So what we see here is issue summary with the name and the salary. So let's create a new role request. Summary is null, but it'll get full. I pick role, let's say Jira admin, and how many hires? Let's say we need 2 Jira admins. And expected monthly salary, let's say, I don't know, let's get 6,000 again. And this way, we should get the summary to be automatically filled just right. So I create issue. And a new role request will be created. So let's see how it looks. All right, so there's null, which means there might be error in the behaviors plugin. So let's check it out. Let's see what's wrong. You would find the behaviors plugin in Manage Apps because it's a part of Script Runner, which is an add-on. Behaviors. And I've created 3 types of behaviors, one for the role and a few for the employees. So let's just, as an example, create a subtask with an employee or a contractor, whatever. So let's that'll be easy, right? Requested monthly salary. I don't know, just pick a number. Okay, line manager, finance manager, and so on. Ha, it has a space in it. And as you can see, I haven't even touched the summary, but it filled from the 2 fields. So how to do it? So I go to the behaviors plugin, and we had an error with the role. So let's see what's wrong and also see how these were configured. So the employee issue type, in the employee issue type, I have mapped several fields. I have mapped the summary field, the name field, and the requested monthly salary field. Because again, we will be assembling the summary from the field name and the field requested monthly salary. I have also marked the summary to be read-only so that somebody doesn't override it. And I have put in place a very simple script in which I'm saying set the value of summary using the value of the field name and using the value of the field requested monthly salary. And I need to apply it for all the fields that are in the formula, because if I change them, we need to let Jira know that they were changed and the summary should be changed. So there's 3 fields with the same script. There was also the role. Again, summary, read only, how many hires, and type of contract, and the role. So there were several more pieces of data. And I think that what actually was wrong is that I haven't included the field type of contract in the script. So let's try how would it look. Let's try reusing the script here. Now, I'm not much of a Groovy developer, so if any of you see an error, I will be glad if you could point it out for me. Otherwise, it'll be simply illustrative.
I'm not sure. I don't see. Here you have a comma. Yeah. Here you should no. Set.
Yeah, it's this.
Yes.
It's like an extra comma. Yeah.
The comma or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's try it. How many hires? Type of contract. Role. All right. Let's try it. So a new role. All right. We got 2 nows. That's an improvement. So agile tester, 3 hires. And sadly, nothing changed. So there's probably an error there somewhere. So instead of troubleshooting it, let's go with the example of the employee, because that was the idea. That if you put a proper script in place in the behaviors plugin of Script Runner, you can make the summary to be filled automatically.
That's the demo effect.
Yep. That's like a Murphy's Law. All right. So that was the first use case. So we've created a separate project. We have added a role, a candidate, and a contractor subtask. We can further improve, for example, the workflow by adding additional stakeholders, additional statuses and notifications. Let's send CVs with the JMWE post function along with the email, and so on. So is there something that you would like to, let's say, ask about or comment, or is there something interesting that you would like to add to what we just seen? Questions, comments, ideas?
It's all good for me.
Well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, let's move on. And the second use case will be deleting sensitive data. Now, this is the next step after selecting your candidates. So let's say you have chosen your candidates, but there's plenty of data after unsuccessful applicants. Their names, mandate rates, CVs, GDPR protected data. You don't want to fall into the wrong hands, right? Like addresses or phone numbers. So how to manage it as carefully and as simply as possible. Again, if you have Script Runner and automation for Jira, they're here to help you a lot. So how to proceed? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I had an error with sound, so I wasn't sure if you can hear me or not. So sorry for the interruption. So what's the best way to remove GDPR sensitive data from Jira? Well, if you replace the data with something else, like rewrite the field, the information remains in the issue. So that's not very useful. If you erase the field, the same thing happens. Yeah, you would just replace it with like empty data. You can't. It will remain in the history of the issue. So what's the remaining option? Well, it's to remove the issue so it can be seen. So how to do it? Well, you can either move the issue to an administrator-only project, or better yet, just delete it. Because unlike in Confluence, a deleted issue, as opposed to a deleted page, cannot be recovered unless you use some very specific apps or have a backup on hand. This is also a good way to anonymize data, and let's hear out how to go about it. easily. Another option would be to use an issue security level, but the issue still remains in the HR project. So yeah, it can still be accessed and the data can be revealed. So the best move could be to move it to an entirely different project or to delete it. However, if you have automation for Jira or some groovy scripting skills in Script Runner, you can easily set up a rule based on when you want the candidate to be deleted from Jira. So for starters, I would recommend the issues to be moved, not deleted, so you can test if the automation works right. Or if you don't need the candidate issues anymore, perhaps because the candidate you chose wasn't onboarded in the end, you can delete them. Automation for Jira doesn't really allow for moving, but you can do so in Script Runner. Let's check it out. How can you do it? So I have installed the automation for Jira add-on. Automation rules. The thing about automation for Jira is that it's very easy to use and you don't need any code. So unless you choose to, let's say like automate starting a script. So let's see how you can set an automatic rule like this in automation for Jira. So I created an automation rule that says delete all contractors or employees not updated for 7 days. Let's see how it looks. So the first step in the automation is to create when does it trigger. Is it when an issue is created? Is it when a webhook is called? Is it when, let's say, a version is created? No, it's scheduled, which means after a set period of time, do something. So we're just setting up the trigger here. And the trigger is that every day, run a JQL search. And this is the JQL search. This says that we need to find every issue type that wasn't updated for 7 days. And it's contractor or employee. Now, this is, again, a very simplified JQL rule. You might want to wait a further while, let's say a month or something, and you might have a different set of issue types. Again, it's an example. So when this happens, so every day, search for these issues, do something, and that is permanently remove this issue, delete this issue. So what this does is that automation for Jira searches every day for all contractor and employee issues that weren't updated for 7 days, and it deletes them. As I said, it might be easier for starters to just set up a move rule, but regrettably, automation for Jira doesn't have a move issue action. It has only delete issue. So that might be better doing in Script Runner. And there's an extra tip or an extra feature you can try. You can delete the issue from the database itself. What this does is that it goes through the database over the issue data. And this is a use case when you might want to retain some of the candidate issues, but it needs to be anonymized after some time. Your company might want to report on how many applicants there were for a role, for example. You can anonymize the issues so they remain in the same project, but you remove all the sensitive data from the database. Such a script can be created in Script Runner, and the result will be is that there will be only empty space in the issue history section, because the actual values in the database will be deleted or replaced with, let's say, a string like anonymized, something like that. Here's a sample script or a script snippet of a listener in script runner that scours the database for the database data and replaces things like summary field, name field, all the attachments, as in it will delete the CVs from the database. So it's also something to think about. When you don't want to delete the issues, but you need to keep them, but remove the sensitive data. Are there any questions regarding the anonymization or the removal of the issues?
No question in the chat. So.
All right. Okay. Now it's 2:50 at the moment. So let's have a 5-minute pause and then delve into the next topic, which is tracking employee data in Jira and what are the processes that you can implement after the employees are onboarded. All right. Let's have a 5-minute pause. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. So we already mentioned onboarding and the anonymization of the employees and the hiring process. So when your employees are onboarded and you would like to keep an internal database to track them, let's say track important dates, onboarding information, reviews, and feedback, let's go over how to do so. So we will be tracking the new team member himself and create a new issue type for him. In case of many issues in the recruitment project, it might be useful to create a whole new project to separate recruitment and HR related tasks and employee information, so you don't have too many issues at one place. But you can do just as well if you have only one Jira project and just create two new issue types in it. It really matters on the volume of tasks and issues um, you'll be tracking. We will also create a new workflow representing the usually employee lifecycle from onboarding through regular work to either leaving the company or retiring, which we will use for the team member issue type. There's a lot of fields that you might want to use to track information about your team member, and in each company it might be different. So I have still put together a few sample ones that will be relevant in our case. Also, you enable review creation by making the project browsable, but each user will only see the issues he created. So that's the reason why have we included in the permission scheme for the project that the reporter can see the project, because he will see only the issues where he is the reporter, as in that he has created. Reviews. One of the fields you might want to create on your issue is the date of the next review with the employee about which you would want to be reminded. So how to do it? The first step would be to create a filter that lists all the employees and their next review date. I have chosen an example of a filter where I see all team members that will have their next review in 14 days or sooner. I can then put this filter as a gadget on the Jira dashboard I usually use to be reminded of team members' reviews. Or if my Jira dashboard is full, I can add this JQL query to an existing filter I use on my dashboard by simply adding or and then the JQL query. Alternatively, you can set up a filter subscription to make sure the contents of the filter will be sent to you daily. Let's go over the implementation in our demo Jira. Okay. So in our recruitment project, I have created the issue type team member and the issue type review. So each of these issue types has a different set of fields. Let's see which they are. It does the name field, the skill set field, the multi-select, the office location, as in where the employee is located, and there are three new fields, I'm sorry, started on, so where did the employee started working for us, and the next review field, which states the date of the next review. Also, I have included a field called type of contract, so we know which type of employee, or perhaps an externist, is the person in question. So again, you might want to add some extra fields of your own that you would like to track about these employees. And there's also a new workflow, and the workflow represents the regular, let's say, employee lifecycle. A new employee, that means that we will be adding various fields onto this issue. Start onboarding, as in the employee is being onboarded. This transition might again send notifications to IT to prepare some equipment, or to the line manager that he can see his employee on this and this date. Then there's the working status, which means that the onboarding has finished and the employee is currently working for us, and that the employee left for whatever reason. There's also the status temporary relief, which might represent the status when the employee is still with the company but cannot work for some reason. So we have this status written down. Hey, we have a global transition, as in we can change the status to temporary relief from any of the other statuses. When you have already went with a freelancer or an employee and he went through the whole workflow, as in he went through the interview was finished, offer was accepted, and the hiring was closed. Well, not canceled, but closed. It would be the status employee hired. We can then use the same set of data by cloning the issue. By cloning the issue and then converting it into the team member regular issue type. Convert to issue, team member. We add the type of contract. That's a new field that we have. All right. And we have a new team member, and all the data remained here in the issue. And we can add the new fields like the skill set or the office location and so on. This is an easy way to clone the finished, let's say, the finished subtask to a team member that you can track information about. So what else can we do? Well, we have the review issue type. And it doesn't really mean that this issue type will contain the actual review that goes with HR and with the line manager, but it will contain some of the data that we might use for the review. So when a review comes up, we would send the employee the review form, which would look like this. Review form, where he will mark his name, and there will be like a few questions about his performance, like whether the workflow is same as he expected, or what was his achievement, and we can use it as a document or as some kind of a background data for the actual review that will take place. So I made a sample review after 3 months for Tomáš Vrabec with some replies. What are some extra features that you might want to use with an add-on? So if you have Confluence and you're using it for documentation, you can create your own template in Confluence, because if you hold the reviews, you probably would like to record our contents somewhere. So we can use Confluence for it. We can create a custom review template and connect it to the Jira issue. This way, we will see the actual review in Confluence linked to the issue. And when we go to Confluence, we get the link back to the actual Jira issues. So how to do so? If we have Confluence linked to the Jira instance, I can create a separate template in Confluence. For the simplicity, I have chosen the meeting notes template, but you can of course create your own. And I recorded some very basic data about the review, like the date, the attendees, and what we discussed, some of the topics. I see a Jira link here, which will link me back to the employee issue type, Rec 8, where I see all the information about Tomasz. Here I see that he came in as a contractor from the issue Rec 6, and that he has made a review form under the issue type Rec 10. That was this one. Those were the questions that helped us during the actual review. And the wiki page that I linked in Confluence.
We can't see your screen for now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll reshare it again.
Maybe it's normal. I don't know. I'm just saying.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
You can see it now.
So there's the issue about Tomasz Vrabec as an employee. Here we see his skill set, the office location, what contract does he have, where he is, he's working at the moment, and his reviews, his recruitment process, and the actual meeting with the review. What else can we do with some good add-ons? Well, we can use rich filters to easily filter by employee data. Now, rich filters for Jira dashboards is a very useful add-on if you have, let's say, hundreds or even thousands of issues, and you need to quickly search for specific, let's say, queries. Like in our case, we will need to search for specific employees using multiple criteria. These Jira rich filters are useful if you are not very JQL savvy user. You don't know all operators and functions and how it all works, but you just want to save time instead of creating some complicated filters. The way rich filters work is that you will prepare them once and place them on a dashboard for everybody to use. They make creating JQL queries easy without needing to search many times. This way, they will save you time. So I have created 2 use cases for this. What if you need someone that knows Java for a Prague-based project, or you need to extend the contracts for every employee in Paris? So let's see how this works. So first of all, the rich filter is a separate type of filter. It's a whole new object in Jira. The rich filter is based on a regular filter that you create in Jira through JQL. So I have created a filter called project equals to recruitment, which is a filter that will show me all the issues in the recruitment project. After it, let's take a second to get to the filter itself. After I have my regular filter created, I will then create a so-called rich filter, and that's the contents of the filter, just all the issues in the recruitment project. That's fine. I will save it and then create a rich filter. I will do so via manage rich filters. And the main features of the rich filter versus regular Jira filter is that you can put them on the dashboard and create the easy JQL style buttons for the users to create subqueries of the main filter. So in our case, we would need to find Java, somebody with Java for Prague-based project. So I created a rich filter that was called recruitment, and it's based on the Jira filter project equals to recruitment. In this rich filter, I have I've created a few buttons and a few columns. So first of all, dynamic filters tell us what do you need for the users to create a subquery on. So issue type, office location, skill set, and a type of contract. These are all the subqueries that we can use for further searching in our filters. As you can see, there's the issue type button, office location button, skill set, type of contract. Then I went to views and put up several columns with the data that I need to see on my dashboard, like the issue key, issue type, summary. and so on. Again, this is how it, this was the result. I see the key, the issue type, the summary, and so on and so forth. So back to our use case. We need someone that knows Java for Prague-based project, right? So I go through the skill set. I pick Java. I pick the office location. I pick Prague. And I pick the issue type, which is, well, it's not role, it's not contractor, not an employee, but a team member. And there we go. Tomáš Rabec is the person for the job. Or let's say I need to extend the contracts for every employee in Paris. So I need to know who is actually an employee in Paris. So I would pick a team member, office location Paris, a type of contract, well, permanent or full-time, not a freelancer. And I get Manuel and Francis as the two employees from Paris. All right, well, now I know who to search for or who to renew the contracts with. So the way this works is that you create the gadgets and put them on your dashboard. The two gadgets are called rich filter something. You always need to put the rich filter controller and the rich filter results. And those were the two that were created, the controller and the filter results. All right. The final use case, if you have an add-on, is if you have Jira Service Desk. Now, if your employees enter their review forms via a Jira Service Desk portal, it saves time and you don't have to worry about setting project permissions. You can also create this review service desk along with your existing Jira Service Desk projects, like for IT, for customers. It's also a very simplified way on how to enter tickets. If you have multilingual employees, you can translate the portal based on the user to different languages via the add-on translation for Jira Service Management Jira Service Management. Yeah, I can't. I still haven't gotten to used for the new name. So this way you can make the review form process easier for everyone. Okay, that's it for tracking employee data using rich filters, Confluence, and some of the basic Jira features. Your employees are onboarded, and yeah, that was the section that we had. So, any questions, comments, ideas?
Not for me. Everything is clear. Sorry, no question for now in the chat.
All right.
Everything. It was more. It was different question related to the resources after the workshop. So I think you can continue. Huh?
Okay. Cool. Fine. So that was the third use case, and we're moving on to the final one, which is about tracking employee costs and salaries for both full-time employees and freelancers. Now, we won't be able to do this using Jira Core itself. That's why it is more of a bonus use case. We will require the app Tempo budgets by Tempo to do this. So what exactly would we do in this case? Well, Tempo budgets is an add-on that tracks the financial side of projects and issues in Jira. So this way, Tempo budgets will help us create a forecast and a report of monthly costs or yearly costs and salaries, either per Jira project or globally throughout the whole Jira. It will also help track recurring salaries, which happen every month and that are same every month. And even if you have like some external employees, like some freelancers or contractors that actually log hours, Tempo budgets will transform these logged hours to actual, let's say, Monday rates or hourly rates, so you can track them in Tempo budgets, again, as costs of the project. The steps we will go through. Tempo budgets has so-called folios, which are, let's say, cost and revenue reports per every Jira project, or maybe some more Jira projects, or global. You would add the team members and their salaries or cost rates, hourly rates, and you can then compare the planned and actual hours spent. What I mean by this is that we might plan how much will the employees cost, but we will track their actually logged hours. So we can do this too in Tempo budgets. And the way we will do this is by creating a Tempo budgets expenses report. It's a type of report typical for Tempo budgets. So let's check it out. I've installed the Tempo app, Tempo budgets app, and created a new budget. I will find it over here in Tempo. And it's called employee costs. This was a folio where I added all of the projects that are here in Jira because I want to track all the costs and all the salaries. Now, Tempo folio is, or sorry, Tempo budgets. It was called Tempo folio, but not anymore. Tempo budgets is a complicated add-on, and you can get lost in it easily. So we will go just through the simple steps that we need to go through to create a basic report. So in the staff part, I have entered 2 Jira users that I would like to track their, and I would like to track the logs, the hours they have logged. So I have entered their cost rates for Tomáš Vrabec and George. I would add them by adding a staff member and adding a particular Jira user. So let's go with Alex. I will enter his role. I will set up that he will work for the full length of this folio, which is only 2 months, and his availability at 100%. The cost rate here is kind of weird. It says $1 per hour. Let's go to how can we set the cost rate. So here's Alex, the new team member. So let's set up his cost rate. We will go to Manage Apps. We will go to Tempo Budgets, Global Settings, and Cost Rates. I've already included 2 users. That's George, who has an hourly rate of $65, and Tomáš Vrabec with a similar hourly rate. So I'll set it for Alex too. So here's Alex. I add his rate, let's say $50 per hour, effective date November 1st. Okay, so what this means is that whenever Alex logs hours in Jira, they will transform using his hourly rate into the costs that will appear in the folio. So let's have him log some time on some issue. I choose a completely random issue. I log in as Alex. It'll take a minute. Okay, I can't view that issue, so I'll try logging time someplace else. Or perhaps I could create a new issue with Alex. I can use the review creation, create an issue, create a review. I'll just create a random issue here. Let's take a moment. All right. And I will log some hours on it. Let's say 4 hours. I will log back as myself, and I'll explore what happened in the budgets or in the folio. Okay, so Alex is here. He logged some time, and let's see what happened with the costs. So here I have planned costs, where I can plan the costs that will happen over time. I have created 4 employees with some hourly rate and the number of hours that are planned to be that they're according to their costs. And then I have the actual costs section where I see the actual logged hours. So I see that Tomáš Vrabec logged 8 hours, which cost us $520. George logged 4 hours, and Alex logged 4 hours too, as we've just seen, and this cost us $200. Now, the downside of this report is that it's not really sorted or sortable by time or per employee. This is just like an overall view of the employee costs. So that's where the expenses report comes into play. Show report. So I would like to see the actual costs from November to the, let's say, last December. And I want to display them by month. So I enter a monthly report. So even though no hours were logged in December, some hours were logged in November. And I see that the total costs for all of these guys in November was like $980. And the report or the filtering options down here allow me to filter, let's say, by role. So I want to see how much Scrum Masters cost me. Okay, there's George. How much designers cost me, and so on. So now I can create an Excel export or a PDF export, or I can compare it to the costs I have planned. So the actual costs were $980, and the planned cost, well, they were much higher. So this way, I can get a very simple report on how much each of the employees cost versus how much I thought they will cost. So that was Tempo budgets, an add-on from Tempo that track costs, salaries, and revenues. Do you have any questions regarding this specific use case? Well, if not, well, here's the time for you. We went through 4 use cases for the HR processes in Jira Core. We went through several add-ons that helped us in these processes or use cases. And yeah, now it's time for you. Do you have any comments, remarks, or ideas?
No special remark. Philippe just said, great workshop. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Philippe. I appreciate it. Well, if there aren't any further questions, okay, something's happening in chat, okay. Well, then I want to thank you for listening and for the time you spent with us on the workshop. And as it often happens, you might start thinking about some questions or some ideas for the use case after the workshop. You can reach me at my email at camil.ver@idalco.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So thank you for listening, and